here, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program. So we've got our Kethane rig landed on the moon now, and that's great, but we have no way to get the fuel up, and so I've decided the best way to approach this is for us to go ahead and what we'll basically do is launch a fuel transfer vehicle. And this thing is fairly massive. It's, as you can see, or maybe you can't see that, on that upper stage, we get about 461, or 4,600 meters a second delta V in the atmosphere. So we can actually, probably SSTO this thing. But I've got the Turin 5X stack that I've used before here, just to give us a bit of a boost. There's no way it's actually going to be able to get us out of the atmosphere all by itself, because, as it turns out, this thing is actually the heaviest object, I think. Not only have I put into orbit, but also the heaviest objects that I've made that'll land on the moon. So we'll go ahead, we'll get started here and throttle up. Hopefully, we do have a little bit of instability, but that will sort itself out, I think. And we're going to take a somewhat abnormal launch profile rather, for this, because as it turns out, this thing is a beast to fly, so I decided to go ahead and turn the UI, or the engine sounds, back on, just because of the fact that the engine sounds are not as dramatic here. I think I will bring back up our delta V information, even though it's not entirely necessary. You can see we're making a very slow ascent here. And even though that last stage is a little bit below unity, that'll sort itself out in a bit. That is for the thrust to mass ratio. And so we've got this still to where we really can't easily, get this thing off of Kerbin. I mean, it is a difficult thing to do, to be sure. And you'll see as I'm trying to fly it, we're going to have issues with our craft wanting to go out of control. It looks like it's time to release that, and we do have a bit of oscillation. I'm not sure if that has something to do with the fact that, maybe it's the fact that, sometimes struts get deleted. But I think this is a primary case of that, where, we are missing the struts on our core. Nonetheless, I think even with the wobble, it'll be enough to get us on our way. We'll do a very shallow sort of turn here. We're probably going to start turning a little bit, but we're not going to go straight to 45 degrees, because if we did, or rather to 90 over 90, or 90 over 45, we would lose control of this thing really quickly. And we just want to ease this thing on down there so that we don't lose any sort of our heading. There. Hopefully this oscillation will stop. Oh, pretty soon. I hope so, at least. Because that oscillation is going to be a problem later on. So, yeah, we have to be careful here. It looks like that oscillation stopped just a little bit. We are losing, time to Apo just a little bit. That's sort of to be expected. Because, I suppose of the amount of delta V on this craft. We don't really have all that much thrust here. And so we have to be really careful that we don't accidentally crash ourselves. Or that would be bad. Because we can get this to a point to where, you know, we can get to a point to where we won't be gaining enough height. And we'll try to correct for this inclination just a little bit. Hopefully, as we get into space, you know, it won't be so bad. And I will burn for a little while longer because we do want to get this thing up. Maybe at least to 80 or 90k. And I think it's worth pointing out my control key is not working so well. So I do, in some sense, I am a little bit, I'm a little bit, you know, hampered in that sense. But if everything goes right after our burn, we will be fairly loaded on fuel. So maybe 80 is a good place to shoot. We are at a pretty good inclination here. So let's see, where are we at? We will go ahead and cut engines about here. And instead of waiting around, I will use the maneuver planner, but I won't directly execute the circularization burn. For a good reason. We don't really, you know, we don't really want, this circularization burn to, go for too long. So we have a burn for about a minute. We need over 1100 delta V. We probably missed that burn a little bit, but it'll be okay. We have plenty of fuel. We certainly have enough fuel to keep ourselves on target. Even though it looks like we're running out of fuel quite quickly, that's being counteracted by the fact that the mass in the spacecraft is going down quite significantly. And so, we'll just go ahead and let this thing burn. And I guess I'll take this time to say that after this, I'm not really sure what it is that I want to do with this series. At least in the long run. I mean, it's maybe now that we've got a plan for getting a massive fuel reserve going or whatever, we will go ahead and we'll get this thing down to maybe there's my control key not working as intended. I don't quite know what's up with that. We'll just go ahead, we'll cut the engine here so we don't waste too much fuel. It's my belief that we're at a pretty decent we are stretched out a little bit, but you just want to get out of the atmosphere. But it's my belief that we are at a pretty good point to go directly to the moon. And we'll just go ahead and do that. We'll set ourselves up in a prograde orbit around the moon. Hopefully not crash into it in the process. Let's just bring up our map, see how much delta V. We're going to the moon with almost 2k of delta V, which is pretty nice. We don't want to crash into it, nor do we want to retrograde. Dill. Let's see if we can get any closer to the moon. 106. We want to be about 71, I think. And that will give us a 3-hour encounter, which is actually pretty nice. And we won't have to do much in the way of plane changes because we have a pretty good inclination right now. It's not the best, but by far it isn't the worst either. So we'll just go ahead, we'll get into position, and we will warp on over to our burn point. And let's just go ahead and do that. It says here we will need 50 seconds of burn time. I'm going to go ahead and it's about 50 seconds. It's not bad. So I think we should start this burn at 25. And again, we do have plenty of delta V. It's hard to tell if maybe the control key isn't working as well because of maybe input lag, which would be really strange. The keyboard isn't really a very laggy device. But at any rate, TMI will be over soon, and we will be landing this thing. And unlike last time, I will make an attempt to land this thing manually. One, because we have a point of reference that we can actually land near. And despite the fact that I don't have a mouse hooked up to this computer, in fact, I don't know where the mouse I had went. It's the mouse I had is actually a little bit broken. It's not quite sure what happened to it. We'll just we'll fine-tune this just a little bit. And we might be a little bit late in doing so, but it is worth it, for sure. There we go. Periapsis is almost down to an acceptable level. Periapsis is probably as good as it's going to get. We are a little bit late, but that's the nature of the game. So, the game is wigging out a little bit about this. But, overall, I'd say this is a pretty good start. And we still have plenty of Delta V left. And I imagine before the end of this we'll have about 2,000 or so meters per second. So we'll get this thing down to looks like we already made our change here. Okay, so we are very slightly inclined. That's going to be okay. We're just going to go to our maneuver node editor here. And first of all, I want to snap the node to the periapsis, because that's kind of hard to do without a good mouse. I might also go ahead and circularize just a little bit. We could make an inclination change here, but that's 48. We'll get on down to about 20k or so. And 25 will be just fine. That's very good. So we'll just go ahead, we'll do that. And we'll get on to our burn point. We are getting pretty close. I somehow suspect that this 12 seconds is nowhere near accurate. If I had to guess, it's probably closer to 25 or so. We'll just get in maybe to the 2-minute mark and see. Let's see what we got. 15 seconds, 13 seconds. Not bad, so we'll be burning around 7 seconds or so. And we'll be ready for that here in a bit. Let's bring us down just a little bit. And we'll just bring down that periapsis to an acceptable area here. And what's our periapsis? It's 25, so that's good enough for me, at least. Let's now circularize. And that should be fairly easy to do. So we got 39 meters per second at delta V. And the question is, do we want to at this time also bring down our our inclination. Let's set this as the target and see. So what we can do here is, because even though I can't really zoom in, we can pull this little number where we'll have, you know what, we'll wait to do the circularization, or the inclination change, because we will have that coming up pretty soon, and it'll be close, hopefully, to our node. We'll bring back up the lander here. We can tell about where we are. It might help for me to get in position as well. You can see our thrust has gone up quite significantly. A, because we're, you know, around the orbit of the moon, where, if I believe that, you know, it's a 1:6 ratio between the moon's gravity and Kerbin's gravity. So that'll be nice for us. We'll do a quick test burn. That will not take long at all, it looks like. It looks like we can complete that very easily. I'll just burn at that 1 second mark. Even though it did kinda lie to me. We're 0.3 out. I'm happy with that, I think. So, descending node, or we'll plan a maneuver at the ascending node. And what we'll do is, we're not actually going to use the ascending node to calculate our, trajectory. We're just using it as a reference point. And so, what we want to do now is we want to bring this thing in line with, let's see, is that the other, we want to go the other way. We'll basically get it to where this is roughly on the center. Yeah, it is a rather hard call to make. If I could, you know, scan this, or not scan it, but, you know, I mean, I'd say if I could just eyeball this, it looks about right. And we got 7 minutes until that burn, and it is a pretty hefty burn. But we'll end up with hopefully 2150 or so, or maybe 2100 meters per second of delta V, which is fairly nice if you ask me. So we should be ready. We'll just get that ascending node down, and we'll wait. And we'll do a bit of a test burn. Okay, so that's not going to take long at all. It's going to take 5 seconds. which means we'll want to start burning around maybe 3. It doesn't have to be perfect, of course, but it's nice if it is. So, what is our inclination? We're at 17 something, which is quite, it's quite a difficult, there we go. Quite a difficult task to achieve. So, we are now quick saving just in case the inevitable happens. And it inevitably will. You got this descending node here. We'll just kind of use that as the basis for, we'll use our apoapsis. It appears to be the same, actually. We'll just add a maneuver, snap to apoapsis. And what happened there? There we go. We'll make sure that that's in line. And we are going to bring this down to where it intersects, or almost intersects, the station. Now, we're not going to get it exactly. That, I think, is going to be hoping for a bit much. Will actually be quite a fair deal off. But I think we will be close enough to where we can rectify that if needed. So I'd say that's close enough. We actually, if we were doing this perfectly, we would want to be within 50 meters of the spacecraft, and that's a rather tall order because that is going to be a fairly difficult thing to pull off. Now, I have come up with a contingency plan for that, fortunately. We'll just quick save here just in case. That way we'll have enough time to make a correction or two. We are deviating very slightly. I'm going to do my test burn around 30 seconds or so. Because, this thing likes to lie. Okay, so we are at about 6 seconds, which is nice. Which means we'll want to burn at 3. And if we overdo it just a little bit, that'll be fine. We'll just get rid of that maneuver node because it's going to cause us nothing but anguish. And it's probably a good time now to, first of all, deploy our solar panels, because this thing will probably use a lot of, a lot of power getting down. And let's also not forget to lower our landing gear. Now, here's a good question. How did we end up so high up? I thought I Oh yeah, I guess I thought I corrected for it. Well, nonetheless, we'll deal with that as the time comes. Let's just go ahead. We do want to be careful. There's our target. We do want to be careful right around this area. And it looks like our calculations are actually pretty good here. But what we need to do is we need to switch to surface velocity, because orbital velocity is not going to do us any good. And we'll just get in as close as we can. And this is the way we're doing it. This is almost a suicide burn. Because we may or may not make it in time. I mean, I think it'll be alright. We just need to arrest our speed just a little bit. And part of the issue is that there is this hill that we do want to pretty much make sure that we don't descend too quickly and that we get over the hill. And keep a little bit of that momentum going, because while it would be okay to land the way we are, in fact, I suggest that we even go forward a little bit. And we are... part of the issue is figuring out which way is which. I think this way will bring us over just a little bit. We don't want to descend too rapidly here. That would be quite an issue. Because as it'll turn out, this thing... You know what, we do need to actually get over a bit. But this thing is going to be a little bit too close. We need to... we need to get over as far as possible towards our target. Now we don't... we don't want to collide with it. That would be bad. As you can see, that hill there, it may be kind of difficult to see from this perspective, but that hill is going to cause us a lot of problems. Once we get over the hill, we can, in some sense, get past the, which, you know what, we're actually not over the hill enough. And the game just froze, which does not bode well, because that must mean, at least to my way of thinking, that we are going, we're rising very slowly. We want to kill then. We want to kill our velocity. We want to go this way. So we will, in fact, overshoot this thing just a bit. But I think we have, for the most part, killed our Delta V. And this does look about right, at least to me. So let's do what we can to arrest our velocity. And if we're lucky, we will actually land pretty close. I mean, it looks like we are already, but it's a difficult, it's difficult to tell. We don't really want to drift that much farther away. And I guess if we are feeling sort of ballsy, we will go a little bit towards the space station. Or I guess it's not really a space station, is it? I mean, I guess it's sort of a station, but it is in space. And now this thing is backwards again. I mean, whatever we do, we want to move towards this thing. And we'll just go ahead. I think we're getting pretty close. It's a little difficult to tell at this point. I mean, that's part of the issue. It's hard to tell where the ground is. I do think we do have a little bit of, we are going the wrong way here, it looks like. If there's any way that I can just bring this in a little closer, I would be happy with that, I think. Because not knowing where the ground is at is a bit of a problem. This is really where most of the fuel is being spent. It's basically us not knowing we'll just have to take that, I think. And hope that is going to be enough. So, landing. And engines off. And we are some 600 meters away. So what are we going to do about that? Well, first of all, we're going to quick save, because that is going to take a lot of effort to get to. But next we need to move. It might actually be helpful for us to rotate in the direction of MRR. That way, we can point in its general vicinity, and we still have like 800 meters per second. I mean, the fuel indicator on the left does seem to be a little low. But you have to remember, we're carrying almost 2.5 orange tanks of fuel. Actually more. So this is the question. Where is the proper way to go? I may have just screwed us up a little bit. I think we need to go like this, I think. And I guess in some weird way, sort of bunny hop on over there. Like a moon man. We're gonna hop on over there like a moon man. And hopefully we will land close enough by that it'll mean something, because I'll tell you one thing, this winch can go pretty far, but it's not going to go 50 meters. It's not going to go much more than 50 meters, let alone 400 something. But I think so far we're doing well. We may break our landing legs. In fact, we're going a little bit too fast now. The hope is that we'll be able to arrest this velocity pretty soon. And that would be nice, because we are in trouble if we do not. I mean, we're already kind of sort of in trouble now. But, this should be fine for us. I think we're about to make ourselves a fairly good landing. Nice soft landing. And we're still a little bit far away. I think we're within 100 meters or so though, so we'll bring this thing on over, I think. So let's save just before that final hop. Now, hopefully that will be enough to get us close enough. And that actually will not be close enough for us. We realistically want to be within 30 or so meters of the landing site. I don't think we're quite close enough. In fact, we're at the point now to where if we're not careful, we'll completely overshoot our sight. So we're exactly 50 meters away, which is not really all that good. But we still have plenty of fuel left, so that's not an issue for us. We just need to sort of go backwards here and hope that we do not run into the rig, because that of course would be quite unfortunate. How close are we now? 42? Yeah, maybe close enough, but I want to get just a little bit closer. We'll save here. Um, and hopefully this will bring us in close enough without damaging our landing legs, because those would be kind of nice to keep intact. 41. At this point, I don't know if we're actually making any headway here. This is a comparatively bumpy landing. I think, well, I do want to say, if we go straight back, we do have to be careful here. Then I think we will be close enough for this winch to hook up. So, speaking of the winch, this is Kerbal attachment system I'm using. See, how close is this? 41. Well, I guess we'll just have to see if this is going to work or not. We'll bring down the ladders real quick. We'll save here, and if it's not close enough, then we might be in a little bit of trouble, because I can't really fly this thing tonight. But we have this winch here from Kerbal Attachment System, and between this and Quantum Struts, this seemed like the best idea. Oh, that is a little bright. It's not really going to help us much, I don't think. If we show the GUI, we will completely extend the winch, give it a little bit of play. That we'll just bring it out completely. And we'll bring it out to the entire 50 feet, even if we don't need it. This thing is actually pretty cool, and I chose it over quantum fuel lines for a couple of reasons. The first being that quantum fuel lines tend to we didn't think about quantum fuel lines, which I believe has a little bit longer of a range. But on the flip side, it's going to be difficult with quantum fuel lines because we need to attach a module to use them. We'll just, you know what, we'll let go. I even see who our pilot is. Hen Hat. Wonder if he's related to Don Hat. You can tell he hasn't quite, you know, grown his space legs yet, because he's decided to fall off of a really tall rocket. So we got here this radial connector port. We'll grab it real quick. The winch is attached to it, which is nice. And a nice thing about these things is, you know, you don't really have to think too much about where you put them. Or I guess not maybe where you put them, but how you attach them. Like, you can attach them after the fact, which is nice because I hadn't really decided on I hadn't really decided on a mechanism for docking. I knew I wasn't going to try and directly attach this thing because that would be pretty nuts. See, are we going to reach? That's the question. And I think we have an answer to that. We are close enough to where we can, in fact, reach. It's going to be tight, but we can reach. So what I can do now is I can go down here, I can right click on this radial connection port and attach it. I'm going to attach it right here under that landing leg. And what we'll do now is we will just head back to the ship. And try not to crash into anything. This guy's he's having a little bit too much fun, I think. I guess at least the animation is working. You can see that we are dropping quite rapidly. And this guy, I guess at least we're at our destination. I would have liked if we would have stopped at the ladder, but now it appears he is moonwalking. Something's up with his animation for sure. We'll just get in front of the ladder. And we will come in here and start refueling. One thing I do want to do this month, and I've been putting it off for a really long time, so I do want to start, I guess, getting this thing going, or not getting this thing going, but getting more RAM. I want to get this thing going too, of course, but, anyway, now these things are connected. Oxidizer will take a rather long time to do, it seems. And we are already gaining substantial mass. One of the things about this is we put this on time acceleration mode, which we should, because we do want to ensure that these things get filled. One thing about this is we actually have quite a bit of refueling to do. Now granted, I mean, we're pretty close here to getting this thing filled up. And it's not really that bad of a deal for us. I mean, we are doing pretty well. That liquid fuel, you can see it's getting replaced very quickly. That's in part because of the kethane that we have here. And we'll just go ahead and you can see it looks like oxidizer does take, or is oxidizer even on? There's no, that's really weird. Yeah, the oxidizer's on. So we will get this oxidizer up, and that will pretty much, I hope, fill us up. We're doing pretty well. It looks like there was mole right there. Now you can see how low our fuel was at this point. Our fuel is quite, or was quite low. And the question, I guess, after this is whether or not I want to worry about maybe docking this thing. I mean, at any rate, given the amount of time docking takes for this, I'm not going to worry about docking too much, I don't think. Yeah, we're getting perilously low there. I think we'll switch between these two tanks here. You can see, by the way, our delta V will be almost maximal when we do this. So we do have full oxidizer there, and that's going to be important for us. And we've already been doing this for a day. You know, speaking of, time, maybe now is the time, or not now, but maybe at the beginning of next episode is the time to check up on our probe, see how far it's gone. Because our probe, I imagine, probably has gone quite a far way. Where is this last thing here? We don't really have too much left in terms of filling this. We are pretty much almost full, it looks like. We need to do those center tanks and then possibly we'll do those tanks on the outside, but I don't think that will be necessary. I mean, I think those are full. Yeah, these are full, so we don't have to refuel them. At least, if we go here to finish that one up, because we don't want this thing to be out of balance, then we'll be fine. And we just have really this one here, which is completely full, which is good for us because we that's really the last tank we have. And there's also this last tank here as well. And so that will pretty much set us up. We're already back to being full there, so what we'll do is we will transfer in. That would be nice. And I'm not... Is there a bug in the Kethane? It's kind of hard to tell. Maybe it's just the way it's doing the transfer. I guess it's just being really efficient about it. Maybe it's not demanding as much. Anyway, we're done with this. So what we'll do is we will unplug. And we'll do that by right-clicking on the plug, which might be a little bit difficult to do. I hope we don't have to send anybody out there to do that, because that would... I mean, I guess it's not the end of the world, but we don't want to fly away with this. You can see we're almost back up with our Kethane. And, you know, you would think maybe the... Well, you know, maybe the best thing to do here is we can go over here. And we can... Can we tell this thing to unplug? I would hope so. There's... Maybe if I do control from here. It's hard to tell who is hooked into what. Or why this is behaving the way it is. So maybe what we need is we need an EVA, except we can't seem to make that happen. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I will go back. First of all, kill time. Oh yeah, we had time acceleration on, no wonder. Now we'll tell it to unplug. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't take the time to redo that. Okay, so this thing's unplugged now, and we can just go to the winch, bring up the GUI, and we will retract this thing. And it'll come back pretty quickly because we've got the maximum winch speed on it. And we could put the, you know, we could actually go out there and detach, but there's really no point to it. Let's see. There we go. We're completely retracted, so, I guess, just to show y'all that this thing can dock, and I guess basically how efficient it is, what we can do is we can go ahead, we will point to 90 degrees. Hopefully nothing is broken. Might as well turn off SAS. How high do we want to get? Well, I think we should get maybe 100 or so meters in. We'll just go full throttle here. And this thing, as it turns out, is going to be a very efficient way to get fuel back and forth from the from our initial spot, because take us about 600 or 700 to get off the moon, thereabout. Really, if we time this out correctly, it wouldn't take all that long. But because I didn't really care about timing it out too much, we'll let it get down to, 80 or so. And let's circularize this thing by going to the maneuver planner. Circularize at next apoapsis. That is in 8 minutes. And that's a 17-second burn. And then we will let MechJub do its thing here. So yeah, like I said, I might, I might put this thing on hold for a little bit. I mean, maybe not KSP in general, but the moon base. It'll just burn at 9 at full throttle. And I think that is because the moon base is, in some sense, becoming a bit of a chore. I mean, it's not too much of a chore, I guess. There we go. Let's just have MechJub intercept. Let's see how much Delta V it would take to rendezvous. Let's select our space station, which we're actually very close to. We'll set as target. And final distance will be 50 meters. Man, I got too much fuel to deal with. I just don't know what to do. I got a spaceship full of fuel. Gotta get it off the moon. I gotta get it back to base or the boss will fire me soon. It's a crime to take the fuel and run away. So I'm going to take the fuel to the safest place, the safest place. I gotta take the fuel to the safest place there is. That's at the base where I can deposit the fuel into the tanks where they belong, and then I'm done. Hopefully that's a good sign for us. Hopefully that means that we have connected. And we have. So I'll just leave it to your imagination on how I got away with refueling this thing. In the meantime, this has been Dilord Root, and I will see you next time.